And there's reasons for that. And part of the reason is this problem that we talked about before, which is desire. We've got to address the problem of desire. What causes you to desire something? Do you want to tell me what you think? Yep, if we go across here with the mic.
And maybe down to Tim in the front.
And maybe down to Tim at the front here.
Yeah, just come through the
Through
middle.
the centre is fine.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah. So what causes you to want to desire something?
It's usually pleasure.
Pleasure, okay. So feeling that you're going to get some pleasure.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got it yet, right? And you feel like you desire a new thing because you think it's going to bring you the thing you want. So
right.
pleasure. Yeah.
Seeking pleasure, we could say, couldn't we?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Tim?
You need to have a reason or a motivation to do
Okay,
it.
so
like
we want a motive
and a purpose otherwise.
and
Yeah,
a purpose. Yep. Okay. Yep. We just come across here, yep. And then
if
down
we
to Else.
Nellie.
And then to Nelly.
Oh, hi, can I talk now?
Yep.
Hungry for knowledge.
Sorry? Yeah.
Hungry for knowledge.
Hungry? Yeah.
Hungry. That's
Wait.
why I desire to know, because I'm hungry. There's something is missing. I'm hungry about it.
Yeah.
I want to know, so
Correct,
I'm looking
yep.
for it.
So
That's what I
hungry is a good
desire.
word, isn't it, in a way? You could say hungry, or
Yeah.
can we say you long for it? Yep, okay. So longing. Yep. Else?
Like you've seen other people doing it and like you're like, oh yeah, I really like that.
Okay, so you see the
Inspiration.
benefits
Yeah.
that other people are having from the same thing. So you could say there has to be benefits, doesn't there? That you sort of yourself, you understand. Yep. Yep. And now?
Faith that I can do it.
Okay, faith is sort of linked to some of these things too, isn't it? It's sort of like, if I don't see any benefit, am I going to have much faith? Probably not. You know, if I don't feel hungry for something, am I going to do it? Probably not, right? So you can see there's the whole concept of faith is really driven by, I need to get to the stage, or, you know, if I want something, I need to understand that it's good for me. Like, and I need to feel that it's going to be good for me, right?
And that it's possible.
And it's possible, not completely impossible. Like, so many times you'd like to think something would be possible, like winning the lottery or something, right? And when you start realising that it's like 1 in 20 million chance, you go, well, I've got more chance being struck by lightning than winning the lottery. So many of us go, well, I'm not going to go in it then, because there's no, you know, that's a very, very low, slim chance. For faith to work, there needs to be a belief, doesn't there, that it's a very high likelihood of something happening, rather than a minuscule likelihood of it happening. Right? So that's important. Yep. Where next, babe?
We haven't gone. Let's go Philippa, and then who had their hand up over here? Yep, Ellis. Yeah.
Philippa?
Passion.
Sorry?
Passion.
Passion. What would you define as passion, Philippa?
So excitement.
Okay, yeah, good. So excited.
And energized.
Yeah, these are really all linked to future feelings. Like, can you see that? It's like, it's going to be good for my future. Can you see? It's not like, I've got a certain thing right now, but this is going to be better. And so this is what causes us to feel excited, isn't it? It's going to be better if we do these things. Yep.
I want to know the truth. I'm curious. I want to know how things work.
Okay, yeah. Curious.
That's a lot of what drives children's learning, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah.
what's that? I'm going to
You know,
Yes.
they see you doing something, what are you doing that for? And it's not critical, is it? When you see a child be curious, there's no criticism in it. There's just like, I want to know. What's going on? Why wouldn't I want to know? You know,
I want to try.
I want to try it. There's that kind of thinking, yeah? Where next, Ben?
Yeah, if we go to Michael, and then back to Rebecca after that,
And then
and
down
up
along
to
the front
Perry.
here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we come to Perry and then back.
Yeah, we'll go to Perry first and then we'll
Yeah.
come across here.
Go on.
Oh, no, sorry.
Where are we
Flip
up
that.
to here?
Michael here.
Michael.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Could you say that it's almost like a gut feeling that you're not quite sure that you understand? Or
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's sort of like there's an emotional feeling that something might be better, isn't it? Like, so you could say what you call a gut feeling, is really like it's a really interesting sort of idea, isn't it? Because it's like a wonderment and a potentiality all mixed together,
And
isn't
sort
it?
of just like, oh, it feels like I should go in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an inclination. It also could be influenced, couldn't it?
Mhm.
By all sorts of things,
Inspired.
including external things, but also internal. Yep. Where are we next,
Perry.
Perry?
And then back to Rebecca.
When your current state is in pain, or there's like dissatisfaction or boredom with your life.
Okay, so you could say a lot of these things are positive, you could say. Let's draw the line there. And then there's all sorts of negative motivators, isn't there? Like pain. I'm in pain, I need to change something, that kind of thing. These, of course, are not as positive motivators, are they?
The more
But-
selfish, yeah.
But they can help,
Yeah.
because they sort of it makes you realise, wow, do I want to keep getting the same thing that I'm getting right now for the rest of my existence? No, so I want to change. I've got to change something, to do that. So pain certainly has an effect.
It's sort of like I want to stop the bad thing from happening, rather than I want to go for the good thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the bad thing keeps
Yeah.
happening. I must have to do something
Yeah.
different, or I want to do something different.
Or sometimes your life is just feels boring, and you're like,
Okay, yeah.
like,
So part of pain is
dissatisfaction
boredom.
with your life, yeah.
Yeah, dissatisfied.
Boredom is a really interesting kind of quote-unquote emotion, because often it's a cover for, we say, I'm bored, but it's covering over a whole heap of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see from this lesson, we could keep going, right? But you can see there's sort of, you could say, positive motivators, couldn't you? To actually to develop a desire inside of you to change something. And then there's what you would classify as negative motivators, in the sense that they are painful, but they still can create a positive desire to change something. Yep. And how you measure both things is going to have an influence. So an example of what I mean by that is, if I feel that I'm just going to ignore and deny any pain I'm in at all, then of course that takes away all of these things as motivators. Can you see that? If I just ignore the problems I have and make them go away. So we're good at this now, like on Earth, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Of just going, oh yeah, I can't see that, I can't see that, I can't see that. We're good at doing that in our own life, where we feel, I can't see that, I can't see that, I don't want to see that, right, really. And we're good at denial, right? But the trouble with denial is it takes away all of the painful things that are occurring that cause me to develop a motivation to change. So now, all that's left are my pleasurable ones that are going to cause a motivation to change. You follow? So I'm suggesting, in that suggestion, that you allow a knowledge of your pain and suffering to also help you to make changes. Not just develop positive desires, but also allow a state where you're no longer in denial. You see, and when it comes to world problems, we are particularly prone to denial. Have you noticed that? Like, how many times do you think during the course of a day, oh, there's no birds in my countryside? Or, what would there been birds of like 100 years ago compared to now? Or there's hardly any trees in my countryside anymore, Or now all the trees are being replaced by electrical generation windmills, And how do you feel about that? When we're in a state of denial, we don't let ourselves have feelings about those things. We just go, oh, I can't change that, so what's the point? So the problem with this state of being in denial of it, sorry, Ben.
That's right.
And the problem with being in denial of the pain and suffering is that we have a tendency then to ignore all the unloving things and try to focus our attention on just what we believe are the loving things. But that's a state of ignorance and also a state of self-delusion.
And
Right.
it masks a lot of arrogance as well. I find that unless you're willing to acknowledge your pain and suffering, then you're content to think you've got it right, that what you're doing is righteous. As soon as you start to tune into your pain and suffering, over time, if you're honest with yourself, you begin to question, well, something's wrong. Could be me.
So an example of that is this. How many of you live alone? When I say don't live with a partner, a sexual relationship, right?
Wow, that's
Wow.
nearly 90.
How many of you feel happy about it? Right. A couple. Yeah?
5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, can you see, all of you who are unhappy about it must be ignoring it. Can you see that? Must be ignoring it as a pain. Because if you weren't ignoring it, you'd want to do something about it. And to be honest, the way to attract a loving partner is for you to become more loving. Right? That's how you attract a loving partner, right? But you can see even that problem, you haven't thought about it like that, right? You haven't thought about it, if I was just more loving, would I remain alone even anymore?
No, we think usually in that state, it's because everyone else is unloving that I'm alone.
Yeah, I just haven't found the right person yet. Right? But if I was more loving and I even believed in soulmates, I would attract my soulmate most probably. But if I'm unloving, can you see your soulmate's probably not going to be that hot about you? Can you see that? It's logical, isn't it? Why would they be attracted into your life if you're not a very loving person? Now, the problem is we often think we're loving when we're not. So obviously, if I haven't attracted the person, then I obviously am more unloving than I believe myself to be. Right? And that needs to be addressed. So can you see how we have a tendency to just ignore the painful problems and just live with them? We just sort of numb ourselves out to them. Right? And that's a big problem. So it's important to acknowledge the pain in order to make change. It is an important thing we need to address. All right, so here we are. These are the things that cause us to have a desire, and there's many others obviously. And this can also help us have a desire if we are not in denial to it. So as long as we're not in denial to our pain and suffering, that can cause us to make changes in our life. And also, as long as we believe there's some positive benefit to it, that will cause changes in my life too, right? So this is you could say this is the desire equation, couldn't you? It's a mathematical fact, really, that you are not going to have a desire unless these conditions exist about the subject and these conditions are acknowledged about the subject. You're not going to develop a desire otherwise, right? To have a desire to receive God's love means that I need to see there's a pleasure in it. I need to see that there's purpose in it. And I need to become hungry about it. I need to see there's benefits. I need to have a passion and excitement about it and curious about it even. Just experimentally curious about it. These things need to exist before I will do anything. And on the other hand, we need to start looking at, if I don't have a relationship with God, what are the penalties, you could say, of not having that relationship? What is the pain and suffering that is caused by not having that relationship? You follow? And unless I'm prepared in my own being, in my feelings, to address this equation, this sort of mathematical fact, can you see, it's very unlikely that I will desire God's love. And the problem is, if I don't desire it, then I'm not going to become any more loving than the average person is. And so many people who have been listening to Divine Truth for many years are no more loving than the average person is. And this is a fact we need to acknowledge. And the reason why is because the personal motivation or desire to become a more loving person has yet to exist. Now, in the Paget messages, you'll find there's a prayer. Mary handed out some prayer cards for you, and in that prayer, it addresses a number of these problems. And most people who read the prayer sort of look at it as more a theoretical, sort of rote thing to say without examining the contents of it to see what kind of problems are identified by the actual prayer itself that was given to James Paget.
Yeah, you can read that prayer as, oh, it's very pretty language, or it says a lot of lovely things. But actually every word in that prayer is designed to help you with a certain issue around desire and love. And if you sit with it and feel about where each word hits you, if you like, it can often be very enlightening about where you're at in terms of desire and love and God's authority.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's our time?
Yeah, it feels like break time, doesn't it? But we're still...
We said we would break at 1 for all those people who have arranged lunch here. So we've
Yep.
got 20 minutes now to just sort of polish off this idea a bit. Because after the break, what I would like to do is go into a bit of detail with you with the prayer. And during this trip around the world, we're going to go into the same detail with every group. Now, when I say the same detail, obviously in 1.5 days, because we're on Sunday, this coming Sunday, we want to do some mediumship with Helping Spirits on Sunday, and we want to discuss with you other things on Sunday as well, not just this subject. So we've got 1.5 days now with you to talk about the prayer, what it involves, and what the pitfalls are that most of us fall into with regard to the real reason why we haven't grown in love very much by receiving God's love. That make sense?
Because really we're saying, I don't know if you've actually said it directly yet, but the way to become more loving is to receive God's love, and the only way to receive God's love is through prayer.
Yeah. And the only way to receive God's love is the way God defined it could be received. So if you want to give love to another person, it's only going to be given based on what you want to give, isn't it? Right? And the same applies, of course, to God. Like, it's only going to be given on terms of what God wants to give. And the key is to learn what God wants to give. And then you understand how to receive God's love. Once you can receive God's love, then you will become more loving. That's an automatic process of becoming more loving. It's not going to be hard to become more loving, but it does require some desire on your part. And the reason why many of us have not become more loving is because the desire has not been present. Make sense? Yep. Question?
I'm sorry, it might be a silly question, but the problem is how to have the desire. I have a lot of desire for some, but when it comes to receive God's love or to pray to God, the desire is sometimes not there, so I just follow how I feel. I don't.
Yeah. Well, this is what we need to address, isn't it? We need to work out, okay, these are the things that grow desire, and this also can grow desire. So all of these things can grow desire. So we have to ask ourselves the question, well, what of those things am I not doing if my desire isn't changing? Don't I? I need to be honest with myself about that. So there's going to need to be a personal examination of our own level of honesty about what we think we want versus what we really want. Right? So most of the time, many of us have got caught up in this tricky situation, you could say, in that we think that our thoughts are our feelings. Yeah? And it's really encouraged on earth today to believe that your thoughts are your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, quite often somebody says, you know, you're in the supermarket and somebody says, excuse me. Really what they feel is get out of my way. But they express it as a thought called excuse me. Does that make sense? Right? So their feelings are very different to their thoughts. And there's other times when they say thank you. And really what they're saying is you should have given me that in the first place. Right? Their feelings are very different to their thoughts. And many of us have become so used to that we start believing that our thoughts are our real feelings. Right? So that's an issue too. We need to address what is real inside of us versus what I would like to believe is real inside of me. I need to separate the two from each other. I need to know what is actually true about my own feelings versus what I would like to believe is true about my own feelings. Right? And if I can do that, then I can be a lot more honest with myself. And the prayer actually promotes honesty, and this is one of the things we'll be discussing in the discussion. Now, we might not get to discuss it with you, because this is going to be a 4-month-long discussion with all sorts of people over the coming 4 months. And one of the reasons why we wanted to film it and record it is because we wanted to sort of, at the end, we know that all of you would probably be interested in the other discussions that we had with other people about the same subject, right? So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do that. Perry? Thanks, Cindy.
Just keep your hand up, Perry, so yeah.
Thanks. I don't know if you'll go into this more, but something that I come across is sustaining that desire for, like, when I watch yourselves, it's a constant thing in your lives on a daily basis where I might get a desire, say read the Paget messages for 2 weeks, then a life situation will happen, a bad night's sleep, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll do that tomorrow, and then before I know it, 2-3 months have gone by, and I'm just, the desire just, boom, gone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, how do you keep that desire burning, or growing?
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to understand.
Well, it's very similar to having the desire in the first place.
I see.
But so there's the principles I've discussed there, if you think about them, apply even, so if your desire is waning, then there must be an issue somewhere here, mustn't there?
So you revisit back to the
Yeah, there must be either an issue where I'm not seeing my own pain and suffering, or what that is, or I must have lost my curiosity, or I must have no longer see the benefits, or I no longer see a purpose to it, I no longer have a motive, I no longer believe it's pleasurable. And so you can see that the reason why a desire would wane is pretty much the same reason why a desire wouldn't be there in the first place. What happens to many of us, though, is we don't understand there's times when we're influenced. So when you come to one of my seminars, for example, I'm influencing you, aren't I? Right? I'm basically, in this conversation, I'm encouraging you to read the Paget messages, so I'm influencing you. I even went so far as to make sure you have them in your own hands. You know? Like, that's a fair bit of influence, isn't it? Like, at home you'll get them and you'll see it, you'll put them on your bookshelf or whatever, and you go, he influenced me. I don't think I want to do that. Right? But the reality is everything in your life influences you one way or the other. And it can influence you positively towards a loving goal, or it can influence you negatively towards an unloving goal. Frequently what happens is the influences come to bear and we don't understand those influences, Perry. It's like we don't understand the reasons why we're now influenced away from the desire. And the actual prayer contains the reasons why, which is very interesting. And, you know, I particularly, this is not the prayer I gave to the people in the first century, by the way. This is a prayer that I gave to James Paget for modern society. The one I gave in the first century, of course, didn't include some factors. that the prayer that I gave to Padgett includes, because I wanted to address some negative things that had developed over the 2,000 years in between with regard to people in their prayer. But for the most part, the majority of the prayer was what I encouraged our first century friends to do. And the prayer itself can help you identify, pondering about it, can help you identify the reasons why desire may wane. And this is a very important thing to do, because if you understand, I haven't sort of read the messages for a week. I haven't longed for God's love for a week. Now, once you feel that, you go, wow, something must have happened this week. If I really understood the benefit of becoming a more loving person, I would want to become a more loving person and receive God's love to do that. So if I'm not doing that on a regular basis, then it means I don't really get it. I don't really understand yet in my heart, in my feelings. I don't understand yet how important it is. Why? What caused the distraction from me a week ago thinking it was important and now me no longer thinking it's important? And there's all sorts of things that can cause these distractions, which we'll talk about, actually, hopefully, in the next day and a half. Yeah? Yep.
Thank you.
But fundamentally, a lack of desire continuing is also caused by the same reasons that a lack of desire didn't start in the first place. Right? And as we progress with receiving divine love, you're going to get to the stage where you realise, I'm at a sticky point right now because my desire has waned. Yeah. And why has it waned? Like, what has happened? What thing in life has caught up with me in such a way that causes my desire for love, which I believe is the thing that will solve all my problems, if I truly believe that? What would cause me to not long for it? There's got to be some influence or some external thing or some internal thing that's occurred to allow that condition to develop, doesn't it? Yeah. And we've discussed that more. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
It's a good question, though.
Yeah, good question. Anna, just straight behind, then we'll come down to Courtney.
Just stay where you are, Nelly.
Just stay, Nelly, if you can hand the mic to Courtney.
So I've got a question about the prayer. When I'm reading it,
Yep.
like, I don't really believe a lot of it.
No,
So
that's
it's
right.
Like, greatest of your creations, meh, not sure about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Your wills that become with you, not sure about that either. So it
Be
feels
more
very
clear, sorry. Just read
Sorry.
it, because we couldn't hear those words.
Yeah.
This part where it says your wills that I become at one with you. I'm like, really?
Really? Does God want me to?
The greatest of
So
her creation.
the problem is when I read this, I feel really disingenuous, and then I don't like that feeling, so I feel like a fraud,
Correct.
and so I kind of just
So
put it to one side.
That's a very important thing, isn't it? Can you see?
Yeah.
And if the majority of us are frank with ourselves, we'd have to probably say, that's true. Like, when I read it, I don't feel anything. Or I feel very little. Right? So that's something that needs to be addressed. Why do we feel very little? What needs to happen so we feel something more than nothing?
And are you stopping yourself from feeling what you actually feel when you read it?
Yeah. And do I need to first own up to what I actually feel? Not that God wants me, but God hates me. Or not that God longs for me, but I don't even believe that God exists. Or, it causes us to have to face up to some truths about what my real feelings were by even just reading the prayer.
Yeah, I can see I can use that feeling of like, I'm not being genuine, so I shouldn't do it as an excuse not to feel the pain that it brings.
Yeah, I would call that an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. The truth is, when you read it, there will be pains triggered. When I say pains, there will be belief systems that you have that are out of harmony with love, which are also always going to cause you pain. They'll be triggered, and most people don't want to be triggered on painful things because we're seeking pleasure rather than pain, right? So most of us go, if it's going to be painful, I just, all bets are off when it's painful. My comfort is now being triggered. My lack of comfort, I don't want to live with. So now it's better just ignore it. It's just a prayer anyway.
and this is when we gave you these prayers, which are actually gifts from other people, but obviously we gave you the messages which the prayer is in. Our intention was not for you to just learn the prayer and take it on like a Christian prayer or Islamic prayer that, okay, this is the truth now.
So not a rote thing.
It's not a rote prayer. It's not something where you try to reframe how you actually feel. It's almost, I see this prayer as almost like a workshop. Like when I'm really connected to God, I'm going to feel these things. But if I don't right now, then what's it exposing in me? Yeah. So please don't take them home and think, oh, I've got to put it on my mirror and say it every day. And
It's not like that. We're not asking you to be fake with God.
Yeah.
We're asking you to get real about, do you think there is going to be a benefit receiving God's love? How are you going to become a more loving person? Do you even have a motivation to become a more loving person? Like I'm pointing out to you, the only way the world can change is for each person in it to become a more loving person. But you don't have to. And if you don't want to, why? Don't you want the world to be in a more loving place? Don't you want your life to be more loving? Don't you want to be happier? Why wouldn't you not want these things? You know, these are things that can cause you to question, why would I do such things? Why would I think such things? And this is the beauty of having the discussion with you, because it can help, you know, fundamentally help us come face to face with the real reasons why we don't have a longing to receive God's love and a longing to become more loving ourselves. What's the reason why? So we see in many of you, you know, like yesterday when we were setting up, many of you enjoy each other's company, right? You get together and you feel excited about getting together and so forth. Why don't you feel that way about God? Is a decent question, isn't it?
I watch you all be curious about, oh, what have you been doing since I saw you last? And what do you think about this? Did you like that?
Did you do this and did you do that?
How often do we say, God, what do you think about what's happening now? What do you think about what I'm doing? What do you think about me? Yeah.
What are you doing? What is God doing?
What are your plans, God? What are you excited about? What do you think about that? What Jesus said last weekend?
You know, we obviously, there's reasons why we don't think God is real enough for us to have that kind of relationship, right? And we need to, if we want to become more loving people, the easiest possible method to become more loving people is to receive love from God. And if we want to become more loving people, then surely putting a desire for God's love should be at the top of our list. And if it's not, when we need to be honest about why it's not. Yep. And the prayer itself points out many reasons why it's not.
So if we have a desire but we have a block to the prayer, it's about working through the paragraphs and just having it out with God as to how you feel about it.
Well, if you have a desire and you're blocked to the prayer, then you don't have a desire.
Okay.
And that's okay. The key is to be honest about it. Like a person who has a true desire to receive God's love and understands the benefits, they're going to be blocked to the prayer. And they also need to understand what a prayer is. So the very first thing I want to discuss with you after lunch is, what is a prayer? What does a prayer feel like? Because these words are just helping you identify why you're blocked to that, right? In the end, they're just words, and God doesn't respond to words. So what is the prayer? And this is something we need to be very clear about, what a prayer is versus saying the words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
Courtney.
Courtney, and then
My question is sort of similar to Anna's, but I feel like the block I'm realizing I've always had is I just don't believe God's loving.
no, many of you feel the same.
So I don't know what to do with it, because when I read the prayers and stuff, I just feel a lot of turmoil and sometimes even almost like offended by the idea, and then I just stop.
Yeah.
So I'd rather hear you guys talk about what is loving.
Yeah, but can you see somebody talking about God being loving can turn out to be just a crutch?
Yeah,
for you
true.
to avoid
Yeah.
you knowing that God's loving.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we do this with addictions. We don't want to feel certain feelings, and so then we seek the opposite to avoid the feeling. So for some of you have been coming along to Divine Truth seminars for some time only for the purpose to avoid your feelings, which is an interesting reason for coming, but it's not helping you grow in love. You see, if I'm motivated to grow in love, I will look at all the things that are stopping my desire to grow in love. And if one of my reasons is that I don't have a personal longing for it, and I'm reliant on Mary geeing me up all the time, right? Can you see that's going to be a problem for me, because God's not going to respond to me being geed up by Mary. God's going to respond to my true desire, right? And we notice this a lot, you know, I see it even in workout videos, you know. Most of you don't like working out, right? Because you need to be yelled at in order for it to happen. It's like, get on there, do that, yeah, you know, and G'd up and encouraged, and then you'll do it, you know, that kind of thing. A person with a desire doesn't need that, right? A person with a desire doesn't need encouragement from somebody else, doesn't need to be influenced by somebody else. A person with true desire is internally motivated, right? So if you're not internally motivated, we need to work out why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave?